It's time for another Southern California housing market update, and I finally have something new to share. In the data, we found an interesting change in the pending sales trends that you'll have to see for Orange County, LA, San Diego, Riverside, San Bernardino, and Ventura counties. And we're going to give you the numbers from the multiple listing service and from Altos reports so that you can see exactly what's going on in the Southern California market. Hey there, Christian Walsh, real estate agent with Wire Associates. We've been helping buyers and sellers make the best decisions in this crazy market, and it's getting crazier right now. The first big question is, how is it May already? It's crazy how fast this year has gone, and boy, have things changed from January till now, including interest rates going through the roof. Recently, Fannie Mae released their Home Purchase Sentiment Index, and buyers say it is literally the worst time in history to buy a home right now. And we released a video talking about that, but this is where we get to show you the data and see if things are changing in the Southern California real estate market. Since we're real estate agents, we got boots in the streets, and anecdotally, we've been seeing a change in the market. Our listings and the listings of other agents are receiving fewer offers. I showed a house today in Costa Mesa that really needed a lot of work. It would have flown off the shelves maybe 6 or 9 months ago, but us and another buyer that showed up said this thing has way too much work needed. So we're definitely seeing a change in buyer sentiment. Also, the discussions I'm having with sellers is that if they're going to sell, they want to get the home on the market sooner rather than later. So if you're ready to dive into the single family and multifamily data for Southern California, hit that like button. And let's get started. And here we go, diving into the data. I know you're as excited as I am. I can see that, and that's why you're here. You want to know what's going on in Southern California. And this is interesting. We're going to see something significant in the single family data for the 6 counties we're covering in Southern California. Take a look at the pending sales numbers, the properties going into escrow, and you're going to see that they are down. And in fact, for all the counties, you're going to see that the 2022 pending sales are below 2018 and 2019. 2018, 2019 being more normal markets, 2020 obviously a COVID market, 2021 a surge, a response to COVID, and 2022, while it started out as a hot year, things are definitely changing. And of course, we can attribute that to the interest rate increase. It was so quick. And buyers now are being squeezed, and that's what's showing up in the numbers. The other thing that's still rearing its ugly head is the lack of sellers, the lack of inventory. So you will see that while pending sales are down, so is inventory as well. And this is also translating into a decrease in the number of homes under contract because there isn't enough for buyers to get under contract. So it's a weird dichotomy we have where some buyers are giving up because it's too expensive, and others are still trying to get into escrow, but they can't because there isn't enough inventory. So very strange times indeed. So here we are looking at Orange County, and you can see in this data that, again, the pending sales are down, but inventory is super tight. Now it does look, we're starting to see now for the first time, which we haven't seen in 2022 yet, it's looking like less of a seller's market in the year-over-year data. So 2021, you can see that we had the new listings under the number of properties going under contract. We had the twist in Orange County. So this was a crazy seller's market. Still a very solid seller's market, but not as solid as it was in 2021 in Orange County for single family. Moving on to LA. LA has just sheer volume. Way more deals are done in LA because it's bigger and there's a lot more people living there. But same thing, we can see the pending sales are below 2018 and 2019. Again, a similar thing where the 2021 market at this time was more of a seller's market than we're experiencing right now in LA. Riverside is our market where that tends to be more affordable, and we're starting to see folks drive until they can qualify. They're driving out there to buy. But here's what's interesting. We have a slight uptick in inventory. Now, it doesn't match 2018, 2019, doesn't match normal levels, but it's higher year over year. And when you couple in the number of properties going under contract, this is another market where we see that it's less of a seller's market in the beginning of May. So you're definitely sensing this trend that we're seeing in Southern California. So this is a shift in the market. We're seeing a change in the market. I'm going to dive into exactly what a shift means in future content. So you can see here, pending sales are down. In fact, in San Bernardino, they're actually close to 2020, but you can see the pending sales in 2020 at this time didn't have as big of a drop. The market had rallied back by this time in 2020 in San Bernardino. And again, our new listings are down below 2018, 2019, but it looks like a bigger gap than 2021 and a bigger gap than 2020. So not as crazy of a seller's market. And our buddies in Ventura, we don't have as many properties trading. There just aren't as many that sell and aren't as many people that live in this county as compared to others. But you can see, look at this interesting trend. 2022 and 2020 have nearly the same number of pending sales. And in fact, there's a few more listings in 2022 than 2020. So 2020 was more of a seller's market in COVID in the beginning of May in Ventura than it is right now. Now, very, very slight difference, but just interesting to see. And in the past, I've thought that Ventura would be a bellwether of things to come. I haven't seen that happen. It doesn't seem to really match the trend throughout Southern California. Sometimes it's down, sometimes it's up. But this is interesting to see. We may see Ventura go into a buyer's market here in the not too distant future. And of course, you're going to find out here on this channel, so make sure you subscribe to get that data. And San Diego and Orange County have been moving very similar paces. You can see that we have pending sales down below 2018, 2019. Same trend we've seen. Listings are down in San Diego. Unlike some of the other counties we just saw, this is more of a seller's market in San Diego at this point in time than it was in years past, although 2021 is pretty close. So you can see still a very hot market in San Diego, but we got to keep tracking the data because you can see very quickly if those pending sales drop and inventory starts to increase, that's where we get into more of a buyer's market. Let's dive into the multifamily numbers. It's another important thing for you to be tracking, even if you're not an investor, to see what's going on in the marketplace out there. And I mentioned in the last video that as interest rates go up, we're going to see cap rates go up as well. It's the only thing that makes sense. Investors can't count on low interest rates helping properties and cash flow better. Now, there isn't a direct correlation, but we will release content kind of explaining exactly what we mean there. And it does look like we're starting to see that maybe reflected in the data, but we're gonna have to keep watching to see if this is just a short-term trend or a longer-term trend. Here you can see in OC that we have a drop in the number of properties under contract, so it's below 2018, 2019 levels. Now, inventory has been tight, but you can see that in 2022, we suddenly have in the first 2 weeks of May a big surge. So this is investors potentially seeing that we've peaked on prices and interest rates are going up, so now's the time to get the property on the market in Orange County. That's what we appear to see here in the data, but we'll have to keep watching. Moving on to Los Angeles, this is a market that is still under eviction moratorium in LA City. LA County doesn't, but in July, they may be able to put back an eviction moratorium for those who aren't paying rent due to COVID-19. I will release content, of course, if they do that. So it's continued to be a relatively solid market, consistent in the number of properties being listed and the number of properties going under contract. We haven't seen much of a change there, but I do expect LA to change at some point in time to better match the other counties. There are a lot of investors. There's a lot of money invested in Los Angeles and multifamily. Some of those folks are getting their money out, but I don't see a mass exodus of listings, and I don't see a mass influx of cash either way. It's been slow and steady for Los Angeles. Riverside, I was quite frankly surprised to see this in the numbers. What I do is my operations director, Michelle, she pulls this data directly from the multiple listing service and gives me the numbers. I put them in these charts and I double check numbers often to make sure, because sometimes I look at them and I'm like, wow, that's crazy. So what's crazy to me is the number of pending sales in the first 2 weeks of May for Riverside. Again, inventory has been tight, but that's a drop, especially when you look year over year over double number of properties under contract last year at this time. So that's a big change in the market. It could be just a function of overpriced inventory maybe at the time, but that is a big drop, and I definitely want to keep an eye on that. Inventory is low, but when you see that gap, this is definitely a backing off of a seller's market for multifamily in Riverside. San Bernardino, a similar thing where we have the number of pending sales drop. It's almost similar to 2020, but back in 2020, there were fewer listings. So now we have a switch where there's more of a gap between the number of new listings and the number of properties going under contract. So if this continues in San Bernardino, we can see that it will shift more to a buyer's market. And Ventura is kind of all over the board. If you're well priced, you're going to go. Tight inventory, not that many new listings, but definitely a market to track as well. And San Diego has been a solid market. Again, very similar to Orange County when it comes to the data for single family and multifamily. You can see this. Pending sales are up better than 2018, 2019, not as strong as last year, but the number of new listings are down. So this is more of a seller's market in San Diego multifamily. We'll have to keep tracking to see what happens with the number of sales if it drops like some of the other Southern California counties. So this is interesting to have a change in the data, and it's going to be very important now to be watching every 2 weeks in order for you to see what's going to happen with the market and see which direction it's headed. Moving on to the Altos research reports, we're so excited to be incorporating this. And of course, as mentioned, you can sign up for these for your city or zip code, no matter where it is in Southern California, California, or anywhere in the United States. So make sure you sign up, because now it's getting interesting in tracking the data. And we're going to show you, and you'll see the trend in all the county data, that last month was more of a seller's market than it is right now in their market action index. The other very important number we need to watch is inventory. Once we start to see an increase in inventory and we start to see other things like the percentage of properties that are decreasing prices is greater, and we also see days on market increase, this will signal a shift into more of a buyer's market. Right now in Orange County, inventory is still low and it's still a strong seller's market. Moving on to Los Angeles, still a strong seller's market. Riverside, you see the drop a little bit better last month than it is now. So here, the inventory is actually a little bit higher than it was last year. So that's a tick up in inventory. Now still a strong seller's market. You could see it in the market action index as inventory starts to go up, and then we start to get price decreases and then days on market increases. That's going to change things. And of course, the other thing that will happen is the median home price will slow in its increase, and it will go down because there is a portion of the year where the median home price goes down. But that's something else we need to be watching, and that's what you get in our monthly wrap-up reports. San Bernardino, this is definitely something to be watching because we saw that it was becoming more of a buyer's market in our single family data. Ventura, same thing. Last month was a little more solid, inventory ticking up. And San Diego, I remember pulling this Altos report up last month and seeing that 100% in the market action index and thinking, holy cow, that's crazy. That's a big number. Well, we've backed off a little bit. Still a crazy seller's market. And of course, we have a link so you can sign up for the Altos reports if you haven't, which of course will also get you signed up for free weekly email newsletter as well. Between those two things, you will know exactly what's going on with the housing market 2022. I want your comments below on what you're seeing out in the marketplace. Make sure you subscribe to the Altos reports we mentioned. We have a link below so you can do that. And check out this next playlist where we dive further into the data, including the foreclosure numbers. Thanks for tuning in. This has been Christian Walsh, real estate agent with Wire Associates, and we want to hear from you.